A family is an important unit wherein children are born and grow up to be productive members of society. This was the general perception of a family setup. But with the travels of time, the family has undergone a lot of changes from traditional joint families to nuclear families, where members become smaller in number, but time management and time spent with each other has decreased. This in turn has led to children hardly spending any time with parents and elders in the family. Moreover, with the advent of technology and mobile phones, many young adults spend most of their time on their digital devices and no physical interaction, thus leading to social awkwardness, and so they prefer to remain aloof from parents and peers and prefer the company of social media and the comfort of anonymity. Many thoughts and ideas get exchanged, and young minds are easily influenced to try out certain options for an escape from the drudgery of reality. With competition becoming extremely fierce and kids not able to cope up with the pressures of everyday life and the expectations of parents, they turn to drugs, alcohol, and other forms of release for their pent-up frustrations. Moreover, with parents having to face the daily grind of hard work to meet up with the ever-growing expenses, there's hardly any interaction and bonding with the children. Let us listen in to the voices of these experts in the field on the issues confronting our young people today and the impact that they have on society.
A very warm welcome to our viewers today. Today, as we start our topic, we see a lot of young people, becoming juvenile delinquents, and our challenges of our life and pressures is bringing out the worst in young people. Today, our topic would be on societal impact on adolescence and the importance of adolescence education. How important it is to make an impact and to start with positivity. Today with us, we have our esteemed panelist, Fida Hun Dakhar, who's an adolescence counselor of under NHM and Civil Hospital Shillong. Welcome, ma'am. And then we have Ba Arbolang, thank you, who has been working as a former outreach team member of VHAM in targeted intervention program for injecting drug users, East Khasi Hills, and even in Gentia Hills. Welcome on board.
Thank you.
Today, as we know, when we see at young people as counselors, as people in the forefront interacting with young people who have unfortunately fallen victims of drug abuse, how do you think as a counselor, what were the challenges or what kind of adolescents had come over for seeking counseling? What were the challenges they were facing?
When we look at adolescents, we are looking at a very vast population. Okay, we are looking at both young male and female. We are looking at in school and out of school adolescents. We are also looking at pregnant and non-pregnant adolescents. When we put adolescents together as a definition, we will be looking at different kinds of issues that adolescents are into. When we look at their population, we are looking at a population that are a period that is very stressful, a period that is very confusing, a period that is very it has a lot of problems. It is a problematic age, or how we call it, it is a period of storm and stress. So adolescents will favor themselves to be in particularly very happy when they are with their friends, when they are with their peers. So when we see a lot of issues, a lot of challenges that adolescents face, or any kind of problems that they come up with, it's always a phase where they have gone through changes with their peers. And one of the issues that we've had over the years that has been a very constant issue that has been evolving around adolescents as one of the biggest challenges that we are facing still today would be one would be substance abuse, the second would be teenage pregnancy, and then third would be out of school. We have a lot of young adolescents are still out of school, and probably these issues probably the problem arises is because they are open to using, open to a lot of risky behavior, I would say, like smoking and drinking and partying with peers, or they have what we call during adolescence a formation of their groups. This is very important to note, is that when adolescents have a formation of group, they have a different kind of groups that they form, okay, because more than they identify with anybody else in their life, they would identify more with their peers, more than family, more than parents, more than schools, more than teachers. And they have this formation of groups where they identify with each other. You know, adolescents would like to be in contact with anybody they identify with. You know, they have these identity who they feel they can connect with. So these formation of groups would call it, just we still call it till today as gangs. You know, when they are into risky behavior, when they have no self-esteem, when they are exposed, mainly because things like this happen is because they are more exposed to risky behaviors. So when we talk of risky behaviors, we talk a lot of things. We are looking into smoking, we are looking into curiosity, we are looking into experimentation, we are also looking into having fun. We are also looking into being a part of the in-group, you know, like their peers. They would identify more with their peers. Like if they're happy with their peers, if they are accepted within the group, that means they're willing to do anything. They do not like to be secluded alone, or they do not like to be sitting all alone, or to be not having friends, and not to be enjoying life. Because when we look at the adolescent period, or an adolescent in itself looks at his life through a vision, through a rose tinted glass. Right. You know, whatever happens for him is because it's what he wants to see it, not because how the world around him is evolving. Not like that. Every time that an adolescent would like to have something, would like to play something, would like to enjoy something, he sees it more as what he wants to see it. Sometimes he goes out with friends and he does not do his work, he does not study. Sometimes he goes out, dresses the way they dress. Sometimes they don't like to be told every time, like, you know, come back home early, or do this, or you have your chores at home that you need to do. Parents are willing, you know, telling them to take responsibility, but they do not want to hear all that.
Right.
They want to hear what they want to see it, and that's how all these problems starts.
Right. What you have said is very true. Especially with younger lot, how you have said very pointedly that they want to belong to something.
Exactly.
You call it a gang, you know, that peer group.
The peer group.
And that sense of belonging makes you, even if you don't agree sometimes, or certain times due to family values also, you have a very different values, and but to belong to a particular group, they feel that they can defy, or it's not right. Coming to that, which have made a very, very strong, because with our evolving young people, it's no longer same with social media and everything coming on board with social media, Facebook, and you have to be liked. Exactly, the amount of liking actually equates to your self-esteem or belonging. So that definitely poses a challenge which we see. Coming to you, Barbara, you have been an outreach worker, you have interacted with young people. Besides what Kong Fida has said, that these are the challenges, and the feeling of belonging, what are the other challenges do you feel in a societal, do you think the societal impact, or the families they come from, or the situations besides peer, the education system, the pressure of achieving, that also does it put pressures? And since you've interacted one-to-one with young people, what are more push factors you feel?
Well, definitely yes. To agree again to what Fida is saying, peer pressure thus plays a very important role. Especially when from the background that I come from, like you've specified, through drug addiction, we see like the age that our young people, got addicted to drugs has become ever and ever, younger. We initially we have seen, from 11 maybe to 18, 13, but now we 10. Even from the age of 10, kids started, getting drugs, and there has been this might be a lot of outside influence. And sometimes I feel, with the advent of internet and the amount of, the information that we have within our fingertips, there are many misinformations that are out there, that are specifically, they specifically target young people, You know, I feel sometimes these are very nefarious kind of things where, you know, like even just a simple ad, sometimes we see like it's just a simple ad, but thank God, because of the COTPA Act that we see, that cigarettes and other tobacco product, there has been a ban of, you know, cigarette smoking, you know, but because, you know, it is noticed that cigarette smoking itself is a gateway, like, you know, they say cigarette itself is a gateway to other drugs, you know. So in the internet there are, you know, there are countless number of you know, ads and then informations about drugs, other things. So, you know, our young people, you know, most of the time I've noticed is that, you know, when you ask them, not everyone will have a problem, you know, have a family problem, that's why they end up taking drugs. But, you know, you'll find a good percentage of our young people taking drugs because they just want to experiment, you know, seeing it from you know, either from the internet or from a TV or from a movie, you know, where they glorify smoking or drinking. So that is one of the ways where they thought, well, by just experimenting, it will not harm them. But what they don't know is that the moment they start playing with A-grade drugs, which we call A-grade, like, you know, heroin, which is very common in our state, and in fact in the whole of Northeast India. So these drugs are very dangerous, and the moment they get it, I mean, the moment they touch it, the first time does the damage. That's what we call. So apart from that, of course, when it comes to studies, we have seen there has been you know, studies that shows even in the West where parents were pressurizing their children, you know, to do well in the studies. In fact, when the child, in fact, what he needs is more of outdoor activities, more of, you know, a family gathering, more of counseling. They were pressuring the person or maybe the child in coming, you know, doing well. But because, again, when the internet plays an important role, you know, back in 2012, I'm sure most of our audience will remember that they have unearthed a very nefarious, they call it a Silk Road of, you know, they say there's a dark web whereby people can sell and buy drugs, they can buy guns, they can buy all sort of things. So, you know, it happened once upon a time, this in the West, that these kids, you know, they got, they came across these certain drugs where it seems that when you take this, you can stay awake the whole night. So for them, they thought by staying awake, they can study the whole night. But what they don't know is these are the amphetamine drugs that are there. These amphetamine drugs are like, they are called, like, you know, it's a special kind of drug. So it's, the moment they take it, it's like worse than what heroin can do. You know, the effect that it gives to the brain, the amount of dopamine rush that affects them, they get that euphoric feeling. Apart from that, of course, they can stay awake, and at the same time, you know, initially, the moment they take it, they'll have to take it again. You know, they'll want to take it again. So that's how, you know, they discovered that later on the person, instead of, you know, being able to come first in class or, you know, study better, he ended up being, you know, a delinquent, and then, you know, he is addicted to drugs, something like that. And then other things are like, you know, that we have seen even with regards to adolescents, you know, they take a break of their studies. They think they can just go and you have what you call is, you know, they go out with their friends, you know, and have a recreational time. But we usually notice that, you know, and from my interaction with some of our peers, our friends, what they tell is that, you know, the first instance is when they went out from the outings with the friends, the college friends or the school friends. You know, someone brought something. It might be a ganja, or it might be some other illicit drugs. You know, they thought it's no harm, just trying once. But then that is, you know, like when there is a saying that says the first time you do it, does the damage. So apart from all the peer pressure that they're like Fida had mentioned earlier, you know, the guys wanting to be in the group or being pressured by the rest of the group to try it, you know, those are maybe most of the challenges that we see. And of course, you know, other thing is that I remember when we grew up, you know, there hasn't been much of these awareness programs that are there right now. You know, we in a way we have to be grateful that, you know, our state, after the drug policy that has just you know, came out, you know, they have stressed stress. In fact, it's very important that we keep, having our young people, understand what drug abuse is.
Right.
Introduce it in the school, in the colleges, and get experts, yes, and understanding how the drug affects especially the adolescent, and keeping in mind that the adolescent age is the age where the brain is still developing, right? The moment a person gets in touch with especially an illicit drug, a drug which is of A grade like heroin or other amphetamine drugs, it catch on to the brain, and that itself will grab to a person, and he'll becoming an addict. So luckily now we are having this awareness program happening from time to time, but I still feel that we still need more,
Right.
More. Maybe it might be through curriculums in school, right from elementary level to high school. It don't just end there, but we have to keep on showing them with all the details, with all the neuroscience part of it, where how it affects, how the drugs affects the brain. That's how probably our kids will
I think you've made a
understand.
very poignant point when it comes to curriculum. I think what we can see that one of the biggest challenges our adolescents face in our own state is the abuse of drug abuse, substance abuse, alcoholism, and yes, regarding peer pressure and expectations, and also that to believe that we need to be in the in crowd. And of course, there are a lot of various factors which you have said also. Coming to that, I think
But I
yes,
think I would like to agree with Arbor on,
Yes.
on the fact that we are saying that it becomes a big challenge, especially to us also as counselors in the hospital. I mean, looking into adolescent when it was back then, it was just a very we have mild issues that we deal with, like failure in an exam, or getting scolding by parents, or something like that, or you have a friendship that was broken, or relationship that was broken. But when we look at these challenges that young people that have been into substance use, we are also looking into a vast bigger problems that arising out of it, like criminal activities. When you look at substance use, especially when it comes to drugs, we are also looking into criminal activities. When a young person is out of school, that doubles the problem.
right.
That doubles the equation of him, being responsible. When he's using drugs, obviously he'll need money. So when he does not get the money, that's where the formation of gangs takes place, and it becomes very difficult for him socially in the community to exist, because then he would be identified as a criminal, not anymore as a substance user.
Yes, that is why we see a lot of, that is what my second
Yeah.
question would be, is that we see a lot of rise of young delinquents, and they end
Exactly.
up with a lot of cases. And another thing is that, like you said, knowledge, they are having half-baked knowledge, what we say.
Exactly.
When we talk about awareness, it is a very important part, and today I hope our viewers through this, and especially the parents, will identify the red flags. We'll go on to that next, but having said that, how much have you seen personally as a counselor the rise of juvenile delinquents?
Since we're comparing this with COVID, pre-COVID and COVID times.
Yes, pre and post.
Pre-COVID was, I'm saying that the problem does not exist. It does exist, but probably measures have been taken, or measures was taken to that extent to see that help was given. But during COVID, I felt that the problem was increasing a little bit more, because there was no outreach services they can they can go into, they can look into, they can get that kind of help, or they can get that kind of guidance, as to say, especially when they are in school. That was stopped for some time. So the need for the problem that was coming out during the COVID times, especially with the juvenile delinquents, I felt it was increasing.
Right.
Together with also a problem like teenage pregnancy.
Right.
We are not opting this out as one of the issues that really affecting the adolescents, because they're just sitting at home. They're not doing anything. They're not exposed to a lot of things, and you're just in one space only. So a lot of things, a lot of irresponsibility sets in. Like they feel that they could be doing something else apart from studies. Like meeting friends, or feel the need to go out.
It takes a
getting
lot of
stuck.
mental health toll also.
Yeah, that's very important. When we had the case, when we had cases during the COVID times, after the lockdown, after all that was being settled, we had a lot of mental health issues as well, where young people were not able to concentrate on anything. This is like both in school and out of school.
Right.
We're not counting the out of school adolescents out. A lot of mental health was affected, and therefore some of them resort to using alcohol or drugs because they feel that it's comforting. It's a comfort. It's an answer.
They took a
Yeah.
liking or
Yeah.
an affiliation to that
To
to
that.
outlet what frustrations they were going through.
Whatever frustrations they had, whatever sadness they had, whatever failures they felt they were carrying all the while, that was worrying us at that point of time.
So I think it would be safe to say that pandemic has impacted more. What
much
would
more,
have
much
been a
more.
bit more controlled, which the progress was, you take a step, first 2 steps, and you then take 3 more steps back. So pandemic actually resorted to pushing everyone, like as counselors, as outreach workers or helpers, who are even creating awareness. Everything had to be shifted digitally because you couldn't have a physical interaction, and that also becomes a lot of challenge for youth. Everyone was going through that mental, but for adolescents it makes a very, very negative impact.
And,
it had a very negative
nobody
impact.
dared to to get help at that point of time, because they the problem was kept hidden. It was all on my own kind of thing, because hospitals back then was not they felt scared, and we were giving those kind of services at the hospital as well, and we had NGOs who were helping in terms of substance abuse. There were treatment that was available, but young people again they were like too scared with
Do you
everything.
think enough is not being done when it comes to seeking counseling, and also like accessibility? Accessibility. Coming to that, you have I'll be asking that to Barbor, that what she has said, that they had a lot of challenge, especially when the hospital also was wary about the situation, of course, putting other people at risk, high risk factors. So do you think accessibility also plays a lot of importance for proper knowledge? We said we have access to all the wrong information. We don't know what is right or wrong information. And also a parent's role or family's role as in guiding or being a support system, especially during things, because again it is subjective, because some family could be open to having a discussion, and unfortunately most of our families are it's become a taboo to basically talk about mental health or adolescence, the pubertal stage they go through, the mood swings, the challenges. So I mean, what would you say, that enough is not enough? I think more needs to be done, and the accessibility also poses a big challenge.
True. And in fact, that is very right. When it comes to, let us just concentrate right now within Shillong itself, right? So we see that, of course, there are centers that are there. There are centers that are there, especially some centers they deal with opiate substitution therapy, like what we are doing. Opiate substitution therapy for those people who wants to leave drugs and start a substitution program. That only happens with opiate addiction, which is heroin addiction. But there is no such thing as for an alcoholic, a person who's suffering from alcoholic wouldn't have that privilege. All he has to do is go to the hospital, get himself detoxed. Okay, that one. After that is said, again, what we need is more of counselors. We do have a shortage. In fact, with the amount of the number of drug users, the adolescents, getting into bad habits, getting into teen pregnancy, getting into so many other things. We need more of counselors. Yes, counseling. And to give you a better example, like for example, like an institution, like an organization like Voluntary Association of Meghalaya, VIAM, a target is like 200. But when you really see the amount of number of people coming to take the medication every day, it will cross 300-400. But they have, what they have to do is, segregate them into groups. At moment, till the very day that we are talking to, the registration that has, the number of registration just in this one NGO we're talking of, there are around 4 NGOs, right, in Shillong. So one is Civil Hostel, of course, the other are NGOs. there, what I'm trying to say is that, in like there are around 2,000, 2,000 registration just in this one organization, 2,000 number of registration, and of course some of them has left, some of them have died, some of them have recovered, but then again every single day there are around say minimum 200 people coming for the medication, and imagine there is one counselor, only one counselor. So how much will this person counsel? How 5
when we
minutes is
talk
not
about
enough.
registration of the people, how many are adolescents who are, if you are to give just a tentative number, so that even our viewers also have an idea at the rate at which the adolescents are going through, and the amount of drug abuse is happening, or any other kind of abuse, substance abuse which is happening, for our viewers also to understand and realize the the reality, the bitter reality. How many of, in a tentative number, I'm not saying the roundabout, you could say the adolescents number would be among all the registration which is
what we
happening.
have to understand is, this opiate substitution therapy program has been sponsored by National AIDS Control Organization, that is NACO. There is a criteria for that. There is a guideline. We can only take 18 years and above.
Right.
So what happens to the people falling under 18 years?
It becomes a challenge.
But what we usually do is, of course, with NACOs knowing it, they have to be accompanied with parents,
Right.
or they have a guardian coming along. But again, right now the most of the time, we get guys not telling the real age. We're not getting. Sometimes you look at a 17-year-old. He might look, after certain months of drug use, he might pass for a 20-year-old also,
Right.
because of the the physical effect the drug does to a person. But of course, there are, in fact, a good number. We can say right now, say from the 2000, I can say like there will be around 20-30%.
30%, I would say
30%.
30% are adolescents.
Adolescents.
We're not counting adolescents as older adolescents like 16,
Yes.
17. We're looking at as young as 11.
Right.
11, both male and female, we're looking
Right,
into.
absolutely.
So at least 30%
Gender
of the
inclusive.
population would be counted as adolescents.
I think today when we are having a discussion, unfortunately we are running short of time, but it's such a vast thing, and when coming to parents' role, I think they need to be aware, and how you said that there are a lot of things, activities which you have pointed out, that so many things they don't tell their parents. So I think parents' involvement in active participation, even if they don't tell, because for young people, like you've said, they they just don't want to discuss, they don't want to have that, so at least guide them to seek a counselor, or if they are going through, I think that also plays a very important role for parents, what we can take back today. And also the amount of drugs there are in the market, which is very common, which you've talked about, especially heroin and the other addicts. Unfortunately, we are running so short of time, but your parting remarks regarding what more need can be done, and what positive, one positive thing which you see that can or is helping people, and what more can be done, all your parting remarks on that.
I would like to just say, like, problems will do exist for adolescents. I'm sure there are problems everywhere at every age group, but there is help. Adolescents should know, or young people should know, there is help. At least where we worked at the hospital, at civil hospital, we are giving free counseling services. Almost everywhere in the district hospitals of the state government is giving it for free. It's free, of course. Counselors are there to be able to help these young people. They are available from Monday to Saturdays. So there's no need for them to fear that they have to waste money or anything like that, because it's always free, and confidentiality will be maintained. And whatever problems that they have, we should be able to be to guide them and help them. So seek out that the services that are available, and come forward and get help.
I think that's very important, because most of the time we are scared. The moment we think of counseling, we think that, okay, and then when you want to ask your parents, sometimes, like you said, the young people, they don't want to talk to their parents or any guardian, because they're scared of being judged or being scolded. So at least if they are aware, young viewers, if you're looking at our program today, see that counselors are there, it's free of charge, and you can take your peer or your friend as a at least support. If you feel uncomfortable talking to your parents, at least you'll get some help, and seek help. don't feel afraid, and break that taboo. I think that's most important thing, because I think this whole entirety, when you talk about taboo breaking, adolescents get scared because they'll be, they know what they're doing sometimes, but then they're scared that they'll be judged for that, scolded, and most of the time you see rebuking doesn't help. Instead, helping, giving out a helping hand helps. So please seek help. Your parting remarks.
Sure. Of course, I wouldn't stress on what Fida had just said. That is very important, and truly the service, most of the services are free. Again, just that I'll stress again, to come back to the parents. First and foremost, we have to check the red flags, right? First and foremost, if your child is performing well, has been performing well in his school, and suddenly you see there's a drop in his performance, that is a red flag. Second thing, if your child, usually our child, the children will introduce his friends, his peers to his parents, or sometimes even his friends' parents will introduce. The moment they start hiding that, that's again another red flag. Third thing is like the money. Money is one thing. When your son or your daughter started, needing more of money, it is a red flag, because why? Drugs are very costly. It don't just come very cheap. Again, that is another red flag. And again, for just another advice is that, sometimes we need to not just listen to our adolescents. We need to feel what they say, right? The moment we started feeling the words, we can understand, maybe we can bring out what is the root of the problem. So by taking time to feel them, to when they say something, try to feel what they say, and then maybe we can understand, maybe spend more time with them. And of course, being a guide, or being a counselor to them, being a best friend, good friend. And for the young guys, please don't do drugs. Even if you think drugs is cool, you're a fool to do it, to try it. Just say no to drugs, don't even try it, because the moment you do it, it does the damage. Believe me, because that is what we get most of the time. Every drug user will wish that, they could turn back the hands of time and change everything, go back to that instant where they can just say no to it. Yeah? And of course, no person will come out saying, the moment I started taking drug, I become a better person. Never like that. The moment they start taking either alcohol or drugs or anything, anything bad, that's when your life started going south, taking a downturn. So that's it. To our young viewers, take care, and of course, everything is beautiful without drugs as well, right?
I think it's a very important thing when we talk about today, especially with adolescents, parents, because sometimes even parents feel, very difficult. They don't know, especially young parents nowadays, they feel that what do we do about our children, and they just, very rebellious. What our time was and what now, what even Fida has said, that times have changed, and of course we have to change with time. But as parents, I think you have put in a very raw, right kind of pointers for each parent. I hope today our viewers, our parents, viewers, will take that as a clue and see those red flags. I think it's very important as a parent. The red flags which Barbara has said, will help you hopefully to understand or identify the key factors if your children are behaving in certain ways, what they were behaving from and now what they are behaving. I think it's very, very important. And for young people, see what Fida and Barbara has said, that see, when you do drugs, it becomes an eviction, not only for drugs, even when you talk about pregnancy, to be aware about our own health. And that is why, the parting thing which we can take from today's program, to identify the red flags, be a friend as parents, guardians or elder siblings, be a friend, to understand the young people better, the adolescent better, and adolescent education, what you all have stressed about drugs, about the impact of drugs. If we start as a curriculum from very young, the impact and the knowledge, most importantly the correct knowledge, access to correct knowledge is something we can take back, and we can always, so even if you're, we have this issue of Googling everything, so I think it is very important to double check where your information is coming from, and there where the roles of peer educators and counselors come in. You have any questions, you can always seek help. How Fida said, 7 days a week they are open, and you are accessible, and most importantly they maintain a confidentiality. So I hope today's program, at least, I know it's a vast topic and so much more to talk about and different case scenarios you could share, but unfortunately we are running short of time. But having said, thank you so much for being a part and imparting us with such information. I think it's a very, very vital information which our young people and our viewers, especially parents, can look into. Thank you so much once again. And thank you viewers. Hope it will be helpful and you'll be taking back some pointers today. Thank you so much.